what's up YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cents Switch / gaming video for this week, for the week of April 7th to April 13th, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion. And we got really 8 stories to cover for this week, or at least the 8 that caught my attention to be exact. So why don't we get started with our first one. This one has to do with the situation regarding Borderlands 3, particularly for those who are planning to get it for the PC, over the issue of the exclusivity that Gearbox and 2K has with the Epic Store. Now, Borderlands 3 is certainly one of the games I am looking forward to trying out, though. To me, I really enjoyed the Borderlands series, both the first and the second one. Pre-sequel, sort of warming up towards a little bit more on that one, though. I just love the whole art style, the whole looter-shooter concept, and the whole, mixing the combination of RPG elements with first-person shooter. I'm really a big fan of that concept as well. But as much as I like the series, though, it's also developed by the development studio known as Gearbox, which unfortunately doesn't really have the greatest reputation, especially after the Alien Colonial Marine debacles, though. And while I am certainly looking forward to Borderlands 3, there are certainly a lot of unanswered questions about that game. Particularly, is it going to be a games as a live service, which outside of Warframe, we've seen what Destiny and Anthem have tried to do, and well, we know the reaction people have gotten with that game, to be exact, to the use of microtransactions. So there's still some uncertainty in those games, and we'll have to wait and see what comes out of it. Well, apparently we've learned that Borderlands 3 is apparently, for those who are opting to go for the PC version, it looks as though Borderlands 3 will be exclusive to the Epic Game Store. Now, the Epic Game Store, let's just say, has not gotten the best of a response from a lot of people, particularly with PC gamers. There are some issues ranging from exclusivity on the whole issue, that not everybody is a big fan of exclusivity, though. And as a side note, I can see 2 sides of that argument, though. I understand some people don't like that idea, but at the same time, I look at situations like, say, Bayonetta 2, where Nintendo was willing to 100% fully fund the game to make it exclusive on their system. And if it wasn't for Nintendo, this game would not have existed. So there is certainly some argument to that, to the whole idea of the issue of ranging from Epic Game Store having spyware, which is certainly has been debunked, to the fact that they have a roadmap, and one of those is having a shopping cart, which is like, you didn't even have that one at the beginning when you decided to launch your Epic Game Store and all that stuff. So there's certainly some issues. And while not everybody seems to be, still, with all that said, not everybody, particularly those who like the game on PC, seem to be happy with basically the whole situation with the Borderlands 3 being exclusive to the Epic Store, although according to GameStop, supposedly it's going to be a basically like for 6 months, though. It'll be on the Epic Store storefront until April 2020, when it expands to additional digital stores. Well, again, not everyone is happy about that, and according to several articles, again, links will be in the description. This one from comicbook.com, they're basically writing, saying, quote, "Earlier this week, developer Gearbox and publisher 2K announced Borderlands 3 release date, along with the news that the PC version will be exclusive to the Epic Game Store at launch and for 6 months after launch. In other words, the game won't embrace Steam storefront until April 2020, and of course this caused many PC gamers to riot and hit social media and gaming forums with their depleas. In addition to protests on Reddit, Twitter, and many more, many PC gamers took to Steam to review bomb Borderlands 2. For those who don't know, review bomb is when in mass gamers leave negative reviews for a game they don't have anything to do with the game's quality in order to send some type of message to developers and publisher. It's a questionable tactic and one that's not as effective as it used to be, thanks to new measures taken by Steam to thwart such practices. As a side note, it's worth pointing out Rotten Tomato did this as well. Recently, they decided to do some issues regarding those who leave reviews for movie following what happened with the whole situation with Captain Marvel. Just like to point that out, though. According to a Twitter user by the name of Force, it reads that, quote, and someone took a screenshot of this, and this is what the person wrote on their Twitter account, wrote on Twitter. Review bombs have started for Borderlands 2 on Steam because Borderlands 3 has 6-month Epic Store exclusivity. Probably not the best way to convince developers putting their games on Steam is a good idea, given these sort of Steam features are clearly as easily as abused. And according to this, though, Steam has largely countered the off-topic review bombing, but not before Gearbox and 2K heard about it. At one point during the whole debacle, a developer for Gearbox retweeted a post showing the review bomb and it was happening, shaming the misuse of the system and Steam for allowing such an exploit. Replying to this, Gearbox boss Randy Pitchford expressed how he felt about the situation, and he would guess he wasn't very happy about it. Ironically, that this misuse is possible and that Steam has no interest in correcting this misuse makes me kind of happy about 2K's decision to release Borderlands 3 on the Epic Game Store, and makes me want to reconsider Gearbox publishing current posture on that platform, Pitchford. It's worth pointing out what Pitchford alleged here isn't very accurate. Steam has begun to take the measure to prevent review bombing. In fact, its new system in place, which you can read about, which they point to a link here, is being tested out for the first time with Borderlands 2, and it is actually working. So, even though I'm not a PC gamer, though, out of all the situations, there are 3 things I could point out to this. The first one, obviously, I mentioned about the exclusivity, and there are, again, 2 sides of the coin on this. I think there are situations where exclusivity can be a good thing, and then there are situations where it can sometimes come off as being a bad thing. In the case of the Bayonetta 2 situation, I would say that's a good thing, considering that Nintendo was willing to fully 100% fund the game, where in this situation, this wasn't a case where Epic was saying, hey, we'll fund Borderlands 3 if you make it just an exclusive to the Epic Game Store. So there is some of that, and I also understand some of the issues Epic Game Stores has. It certainly has, and they really need to address some of those problems, though, especially if they're offering themselves as an alternative or a competitor to Steam. The second situation is that I am not a big fan of review bombing. I do not support the practice. I do not agree with it at all. While I understand PC gamers and consumers have a right to be angry about this and may not 100% agree with this decision, I do not support the practice, because then it gives the impression, because it basically, for any good user review out there, as someone who actually writes a good user review, it's always flooded with like those negative, or like the ones that are just false or misleading. So I'm very iffy about review bombing. We saw, again, like I said earlier, we saw how this played out with Rotten Tomato in response to the review bombing we saw with Captain Marvel, and they took a response to it, though. Obviously, Steam is doing that as well. And 3, the way Randy Pitchford answered the response to this, though, is that, to me, it almost is just as bad as what EA pulled last year when the whole situation with Battlefield 5 and the infamous, if you don't like it, don't buy it, which a lot of people took to that and decided not to buy the game. The pre-orders were down, and EA decided to delay in November. And while the game certainly made money, it didn't make a whole lot of money as EA wanted it to be. Not to mention they want to consider themselves the greatest video game company, and given what they have pulled so far, no. So, and not to mention, Randy Pitchford is not exactly let's not forget what he pulled with Alien Colonial Marines and all the BS on that. Still trying to defend what he did. And not to mention allegations that he took the money that was supposed to be used for Colonial Marines to make Borderlands 2. So he's not really in the best position to it. I understand he's angry about it, but after what he has pulled and all that stuff, he's not really in the best position. So overall, As far as the PC situation, it seems to be a mess. As for whether or not the game will bomb when it releases on the Epic Game Store, remains to be seen. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But for now, it looks like it's going to the Epic Game Store and will be there for about 6 months. Whether the game succeeds at the Epic Game Store or not remains to be seen. But overall, it's obviously this turned into, for PC gamers though, this obviously turned into a debacle of a mess, and neither side seems to be happy with the situation. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this has to do with Bethesda's decision regarding the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood that, well, let's just say, as a Switch owner, and I'm sure other Switch owners kind of feel like this, are not pleased with what Bethesda is doing regarding the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation regarding the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood. Now, the Wolfenstein series, or the newest entries in the series, both the New Order and the New Colossus, are some of my favorite FPS shooters, though. They're fun, over-the-top games and all that stuff, and they focus heavily on a single-player experience. It's definitely a game I do truly enjoy, much like with Doom. In fact, I have more respect for Doom and Wolfenstein, and I would play them over a Call of Duty game any day. And seeing Bethesda support the Nintendo Switch to some degree has been sort of a positive sign, as we've seen some of their games have come over, like Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, Doom, and of course Elder Scrolls Skyrim has come to the Nintendo Switch, despite the fact that Elder Scrolls Skyrim has earned a reputation of being like it's being released on everything, although I could say the same thing about Grand Theft Auto 5 though. So, but lately Bethesda has been making some questionable decisions that have not exactly sat well with a lot of people. Obviously, the biggest one is, of course, Fallout 76, as we have seen that game has come out in a broken, buggy state when it's launched, to the whole canvas bag debacle of a mess, Bethesda being silent about the situation, and the recent learning that they have now have put microtransactions have gone beyond cosmetics and into, you know, buying health packs, to the release of the Elder Scrolls Blades on ISO and Android devices, and the discovery of the amount of microtransaction, including having to wait 5 hours to open a treasure chest. And now another thing to add to the let's hate Bethesda even more is the situation with Wolfenstein Youngblood, especially the Switch version. A game that I was looking forward to getting, but now may have to reconsider whether I should even get this game or not. And this has to do with a situation where it has been discovered that if you opt for the physical version, it appears as though that basically you're just going to get a code for the game. You're not getting the cartridge or anything else. There isn't the extra data to require to download or play the game. You're actually just getting a code. According to several articles, including the one from comicbook.com, link will be in the description, it reads though, the release date of the upcoming co-op Wolfenstein adventure was recently revealed, along with a new trailer showing all the glorious Nazi-killing action to come. For those who don't know, Wolfenstein Youngblood will place players in the roles of Jesse and Sofa BJ Blazkowicz, twin daughters. While the Bethesda game will be coming to all of the major platforms, it looks like the Nintendo Switch version may be different than its fellow consoles in that it will only be available through a download code instead of a cartridge. Twitter user Wario64 recently posted their discovery in social media platforms, showing off screenshots for both Amazon and GameStop. And according to these retailers, Wolfenstein Youngblood for the Nintendo Switch will come with a download code inside the box instead of the cartridge many would expect. This of course means you will need an internet connection in order to obtain the title. This also means you will be paying for a box with no cartridge instead. according to what Twitter user Wario64 said. And naturally, fans are that excited about this information, as many of them have expected a cartridge of the Nintendo Switch version for Wolfenstein Youngblood. Some of the comments are saying, well, guess I'm not buying it for Switch now, too. If that's the case, there's no point whatsoever selling it physically. This is stupid. They're doing this in the first place, assuming everyone has a stable internet connection for digital games. So it certainly has not sat well. Nintendo Life has pointed out, and going over to GameStop's webpage, they're basically saying, quote, and when you go to their website though, no cartridge for this game. Code will be packed inside box. Internet connection required. And just to add more salt to the room, or just to add more insult to injuries, though, when going to their FAQ and going down to them about talking about Wolfenstein Youngblood, they mentioned, someone asked about the Switch version. It says, will the Nintendo Switch version be digital only? And according to the FAQ on it, it says, the Nintendo Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood will be available digitally. The physical version of Wolfenstein Youngblood will be a digital download code in the box with no game cartridge. A download will be required to play the game. Will a download be required to play Wolfenstein Youngblood on the Nintendo Switch? A download is required to play Wolfenstein Youngblood on Nintendo Switch when you purchase the game digitally or physically at retailers. Now, if this is all true, and I'm more than likely sounds like it is, then I am, as a Switch owner and as someone who was looking forward to this game, is very, very disappointing to me. This, to me, is very scummy for what Bethesda is doing. What is the point of buying a physical version of a game when you're just getting a download code for it? You're just buying an empty box. I might as well have just purchased the digital version instead. What was the whole point of Bethesda doing this? Now, I don't know whether Bethesda, I don't know what decision they came behind this, whether the cartridges were expensive, which if that's the case, that's an issue Nintendo, I think, does need to iron out in some areas, though. Or whether they would just decide to take the cheapest way possible and just be downright greedy and lazy. I mean, to me, I am angry about this. I really am. This, to me, is like... So I'm spending $60 on an empty box. I'm getting it just like or $60 for just one piece of paper or something like that. This, to me, is utterly ridiculous. And if this is true... If this is serious about this, then I'm leaning towards the fact that I might cancel my pre-order for Wolfenstein Youngblood. This, to me, is unacceptable. This is shady, though. I do not appreciate this, though. If you were selling this as a digital-only title, though, yeah, I might be somewhat upset, but at least you're honest about that, like, honest saying that this is going to be a digital title. But for us to finally learn about this, and learning the fact that anybody making a pre-order for the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood at their store, whether it's GameStop or any other store, and now learning about this, it's like, oh my god, this is, to me, this is deplorable, though. I do not support this kind of business practice whatsoever, and if this is what Bethesda is doing, then chances are I'm going to probably cancel my pre-order for Wolfenstein Youngblood. I'm not going to support something like this, though, okay? Either you're going to release a physical... If you're going to release a game with a box, then release the physical version with it, though. Not a stupid paper with just a digital code. Oh, though. Because to me, it feels like I might as well just gone to the eShop and just buy the game through the eShop. Not go drive down to my local retailer and pick up basically what I'm spending is $60 for an empty box or / a piece of paper, for crying out loud. So overall, I am very disappointed of how Bethesda is handling this, and I am very concerned that this raises some serious questions about Doom Eternal and the possibility that they could probably pull the same thing. There's a chance they could pull something similar to like that. I am not happy about this at all, and I will more than likely cancel my pre-order for the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with Mortal Kombat 11, and basically this one is going to, well, not as bad as Wolfenstein, not nearly as bad as Wolfenstein Youngblood, but it's not going to sit well with a lot of people nevertheless, and that has to include the fact that you maybe have to save some room in your SD card or micro SD card. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My True Scent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation with the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 11. Now, ever since it was announced at the Video Game Awards and we learned that Mortal Kombat 11 was coming to the Nintendo Switch, that version has kind of been shrouded in mysteries, as there hasn't been really any actual gameplay footage of it, although there is supposedly a story trailer which showed like 3 seconds of actual footage of it on the Nintendo Switch. Not to mention, we've heard reports from those who have played the game, at least from stuff like Game Explain to Ed Bond, the creator, saying that the Switch version actually runs well and runs at a 60 frames per second, which, while is encouraging, it would be nice to actually see the game itself. By not showing any gameplay footage, though, it almost gives the impression that this is going to be another WWE 2K18 situation where no one would know saw what the Switch version looked like, and when it was finally revealed, it was just awful. It was pretty bad. So there are some concerns about it, though, but so far, people who played it say that it's not as bad as it seems. Well, apparently Mortal Kombat 11 for the Nintendo Switch is going to be a game where if you're planning to pick this up, regardless if it's physical or digital, you better have a lot of space on your micro SD card if you're thinking of picking this one up. According to Nintendo Life and several other sites, link will be in the description, they're reading that, quote, they're saying, and according to them, they're saying that we are now just a couple of weeks away from Mortal Kombat 11's North America launch on the Switch. While we haven't seen any footage of the Switch version in action yet, early impressions did sound pretty positive. Now, though, another potential alarming discovery has been made concerning the game's file size. Twitter user NWPlayer123 has shared a threads of finding from the game, which apparently has now gone live on the Switch eShop behind the scene, ready to launch. They say the base game will be 6.537 gigabytes with a day one update planning, which would be a 15.9 gigabyte, more than double the size of the base game then. It's pretty easy to jump to conclusion. One could assume Warner Brothers has opted for a smaller or cheaper Switch cartridge, only needed to store the original 6.5 gigabytes on there before forcing consumers to use up their precious SD card space by downloading the rest of the game. They're saying while this may well be the case, we can't know for sure. So they're saying it might be best to put down the pitchforks for the time being. Interesting thing though, NWPlayer123 also has shared the following image, potentially revealing 13 pieces of DLC planned for the game. Previously, DLC in the series have included characters and new skins, so we can expect to see something similar here. That's what they're basically saying, including the person who wrote the tweet as well. So, and it also points out that they're saying, quote, Mortal Kombat 11 Switch is live at 23,609 MB, aka 22.53 gigabytes, has a 1.0.1 day one update to add, and they point out that there is a 13 DLC listing. The person also points out that find out that there is a premium edition for like $100 of it and all that. Now, Mortal Kombat, as far as DLCs, did get some controversies in the past, as some people were upset with Warner Brothers doing, you know, having people pay for easy fatalities and so forth, so not everyone is pleased about their DLC practices or anything like that. Now, there are several ways to look at this situation, though. On one hand, some people will point the finger at Warner Brothers, at WB Games, if this is true, of them being very cheap and being taking the cheapest way possible on this. Other people will point to, say, Nintendo in terms of the decision to go with the cartridge and how cartridges are still somewhat expensive, although we've heard stories of how the price has gone down. Either way, regardless of which of those situations are, I think it's a mixture of both. I think this highlights a problem that the Nintendo Switch is going to face, is pretty much going to face going forward. As much as I like the Nintendo Switch, I understand how some people are annoyed with the idea of basically, you know, you have to download the rest of the game just to play it on the Nintendo Switch. Games like Doom, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, and LA Noire have done this before. Even NBA 2K18 is notorious for this even as well. And some may argue, well, if you want these games, the bigger these games, you're going to have to save room for on your card and all that stuff. I mean, hell, Red Dead Redemption 2 required 2 discs, for crying out loud. A data disc and a game disc for basically to even get the game up and running on the sorry, I almost said Nintendo Switch, on the PS4, for crying out loud. But I do think this highlights a problem the Switch is going to face, and this could be a problem for third-party developers, especially those that want to support the Nintendo Switch, because of the cost of some of these cartridges. And I really think Nintendo needs to address some of these problems, though. I mean, some of it may not be beyond their control, such as developers need to do a better job optimization and compressing the games on the Nintendo Switch. But some of it is Nintendo could reach out to help them on that, or figure out a way that maybe they'll help them with the cost of getting these cartridges, in terms of getting these games to fit in the cartridges, even towards some more expensive ones like the 16-bit gigabytes, or if those are expensive, I'm not 100% sure, to the 32 gigabytes though. So it's certain, I can understand why some people might be upset about this, and I wouldn't be surprised if some have decided to cancel their pre-orders for the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 11, although the situation isn't as bad as what we saw with Wolfenstein Youngblood, as I mentioned in part 2, where you're getting paying $60 for an empty box / a piece of paper. Still, I can see why some people are upset about this, and I wouldn't be surprised if some decide to cancel their pre-orders. Whether they do that or not remains to be seen, and some may argue, you know, you should get a bigger micro SD card, and that may be true, but some of the bigger ones, again, are very pricey. It's possible the prices will go down on some of these, but it may take a while for this. So overall, it's a little disappointing to see how they hear about this big you need to download the rest of the game if this story is true, to be exact. And I think it highlights a problem that the Nintendo Switch is going to face going forward, and I do think Nintendo needs to somehow address this in a certain way. Maybe it's to help developers how to best optimize and compress their game onto the Nintendo Switch. Maybe it's picking up some of the cost for some of these cartridges, but whatever the case is, I think Nintendo does need to somehow address the issue regarding at least the cartridge prices and so forth. So like I said, it certainly isn't as bad as Wolfenstein Youngblood, but I can see why some people may not be pleased with the idea of having to download perhaps a 15 gigabyte just to play Mortal Kombat 11 on the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4, and this one has to do with the announcement this week that God Eater 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My True Scent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the announcement made this week by Bandai Namco that God Eater 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, when it comes to Bandai Namco in terms of their support for the Nintendo Switch, their support has been, well, pretty good. There are some decisions I don't agree with, like One Piece Unlimited Red and One Piece Warriors 3 being released digital only here in the United States, although you can import those games and those games will work on the Nintendo Switch since the Switch are region free. But we have seen some support from them. Has been seeing some good support from their Bandai Namco arcade games being released over here too. We've seen games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 and Fighter Z being brought over here to the Nintendo Switch. Even though I'm not really a Dragon Ball Z fan though, I certainly don't see any problem with it coming to the Nintendo Switch. And if there's an audience for those types of games, good, there's an audience for those types of games. To the recent release of the Tales of Vesperia, if I'm saying the name correctly, came to the Nintendo Switch, and I would love to see more entries of the Tales series come to the Nintendo Switch as well. Well, it looks like they're adding another game to bring over to the Nintendo Switch, and that is the announcement that God Eater 3 will be on its way, coming here in July. According to an article from Nintendo Life, links will be in the description, not to mention they just revealed a trailer for the announcement of the game. It says that, quote, Bandai Namco has revealed that God Eater 3 will be released on the Nintendo Switch. A launch date of July 12th has been confirmed. Originally launched on the PC and PS4 this February, the game is unsurprisingly the third entry in the God Eater series. It's an action RPG with hack-and-slash gameplay presented throughout. Players use God Arc weapons, which can be transformed into guns to hunt and kill monsters known as Armagani, if I'm saying the name correctly though. And it's also worth pointing out that it's been also confirmed that if you pre-order a game, you'll get a downloaded code for a costume and hairstyles theme after Tales of Vesperia's Yuri and Estella, if I'm saying the name correctly though. So basically it's just cosmetics and all that stuff. Now I think I played one of the God Eater games before, and it kind of plays a little bit like Monster Hunter in a way. So, and again, if you like those kind of games, and this one is probably one you want to take a look at when it's released on the Nintendo Switch. So to me, it is nice that they're bringing this game over, and it would be really interesting to see if this means that we're going to see more support from Bandai Namco. Maybe if God Eater 3 is coming to Nintendo Switch, maybe the rumors that Code Vein, if I'm saying the name correctly, that rumor might be true, and we could see that game come to Nintendo Switch, which I certainly would be open to it. I certainly would like for it to come as well. So it's really nice to see Bandai Namco at least is putting some efforts and bringing in some games over to the Nintendo Switch. Now, if other games I would like to see, I would love for them to bring the new Ace Combat game over, or maybe even Soul Calibur 6 or Tekken 7. I know there are fighting fans out there. Would love to see that come to the Nintendo Switch. If I'm not mistaken, those games did run on Unreal Engine 4, so it's a possibility though. So, and as for Soul Calibur 6 though, well, for those who may not remember, Soul Calibur 2 was released on the GameCube, and out of the 3 exclusive characters that that the PS2, GameCube, and the Xbox got Spawn. PS2 got Tekken Heihachi, if I'm saying the name correctly. If not, I apologize. And GameCube got Link, and supposedly the GameCube version sold very well. So maybe if they bring Soul Calibur 6 or Tekken 7 over, maybe they could do exclusive characters with Nintendo thing. Like, why not put, like, say, the characters like Fire Emblem or Xenoblade or even Link again in a Soul Calibur game? I mean, again, I'm just throwing something out there, but we'll have to wait to see if those games come over. But overall, nice that God Eater 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Be very interesting if they bring the first and second one over, or if they remake that though. And here's to hoping they bring over I was hoping that Bandai Namco will bring over more games to the Nintendo Switch. For me, it would be more entries of the Tales series, and of course, perhaps maybe a remake or a port of the Dot Hack series. That would be nice if they bring that over to the Nintendo Switch. So, but like I said, great that God Eater 3 is coming over to the Nintendo Switch, and hopefully it is a game that appeals to Switch owners, and it's certainly one title I will be keeping an eye out for. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5 of our My Two Cent video, and this one has to do with, supposedly, we got somewhat of a release date for this game Vampyr, or V-A-M-P-Y-R, and Call of Cthulha. Apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My Two Cent video, and this one has to do with the announcement of several games that are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, particularly by the name of Vamp, V-A-M-P-R-Y, and Call of Cthulhu, C-T-H-U-L-H-U. Again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly, though. With the Switch becoming a success so far, at least for where it is right now, we've seen a lot of developers have brought games that we never thought would come to the Nintendo system, or didn't come at all, mostly because, you know, most developers avoided the Wii U given the situation the Wii U is in. We've seen a lot more developers, you know, like I said, bring their games over to the Switch, which certainly is encouraging, although not every game. Some games have done well on the Switch, some have not, and apparently, but nevertheless, we've seen more developers try to bring some of their games over to the Switch. And apparently this developer, we learned, is that a developer or publisher of Focus Home Interactive is bringing some of their games that they released last year on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and are bringing over to the Switch, which are Vamp, Call of Cthulhu, if I'm saying the name correctly, and of course another game, Farming Simulation. Whether that appeals to people or not, you can make your call on that one. From an article from Video Gamer, it's reported that Nintendo Switch version of Vampyr and Call of Cthulhu, again, apologize I'm not saying the name correctly, will be released later this year, published Focus House Interactive have announced. Vamp was developed by DONTNOD Entertainment and launched for PS4, PC, and Xbox One last June. The game sold over 1 million copies and its success has resulted in, you know, DOTNOD and Focus Home renewing their partnership for an exciting new project. The person who wrote basically thought it was a pretty decent game. Meanwhile, the other game, though, Call of Cthulhu, arrived back in October 2018 for PS4, PC, and Xbox One. Sadly, despite having high hopes for the game, the person who wrote it thought it was a bit of a mess. No release date has been given at this time, other than a 2019 release date. Hopefully, we'll hear more about that soon. And so, while it's great that these games are coming to the Nintendo Switch, there may have to be a little bit of caution. According to, at least from Metacritic, again, Metacritic can be 100% right or wrong depending on how you look at it. Sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. Kind of like how I feel about Rotten Tomato. Let's just say the score is kind of mixed for it. For Vamp, it got a 70 based on 67 critics and a 7.1 user score based on a user score of 397, at least a recording of this video. Out of 76 critics who have reviewed the game, 34 have given it a positive review, 29 have given it a mixed review, and only 4 have given negative review on it. On the user review side, 45 have given it a positive review, 28 have given it a mix, and 15 have given it a negative review. As far as the other game, Call of Cthulhu, this score, still mixed, but a little bit lower than the last one I mentioned, Vamp. This one has a 63 based off of 46 critics and a 7.2 user score based off 127 ratings. So in terms of on that part, it says based off of 48 critics review. This one not as positive though. 9 have only given it a positive review, 33 have given it a mix, and 4 have given it a negative review. Over at the user review, based off of 20 user reviews though, a little bit more forgiving though. 11 have given it a positive review, 6 have given it a mixed review, and only 3 have given it a negative review. So both of these games sort of gotten kind of a mixed response when they were originally released, but I am very curious to see how these games run on the Nintendo Switch. From what I understand, Vamp, I suppose, from what I heard, that one runs on Unreal Engine 4, so hopefully maybe they'll iron out some of the stuff and maybe they'll have the game functioning and working properly on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, I'm aware it probably won't have the bells and whistles as the PS4 or the Xbox One version, but we'll have to wait and see how well this one does play on the Nintendo Switch, and maybe we'll see more games from these developers coming to the Nintendo Switch down the road. So overall, very nice that they're bringing these games over to the Switch. Obviously, we don't have a concrete release date other than a 2019 release date, and hopefully whatever issues the PS4, the Xbox One, or the PC version has, hopefully these can be ironed out by the time the Switch version comes out. One last thing, it's worth pointing out that from what I've read somewhere is that Saber Interactive is handling the ports of both of those games coming to the Nintendo Switch. So, like I said, great that more games are coming to the Switch. Hopefully, and like I said, hopefully they'll iron out any issues the PS4, Xbox One, or PC version had when those games were released last year. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 6, and this one has to do with the fact that Senran Kagura Peach Ball supposedly has a release date for the West, or actually it's coming to the West. On top of that, there's some marvelous answered basically regarding any situation regarding if the game will be censored or not. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our sixth part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one has to do with regarding the release of Senran Kagura Peach Ball for the Nintendo Switch. Now, the Senran Kagura series has been going on for a bit, ever since it started on the Nintendo 3DS, and it certainly has its fan base and has certainly grew in its popularity. Obviously, we know what the main selling point of the game is. I'm sure anybody that's played Dead or Alive or seen Senran Kagura knows what the main selling point of the game is. Despite that, it certainly has its fan base, it certainly has its audience, and when I first heard about the game, I thought there was no way they were going to bring it over here to the West. And then we saw it released on the 3DS, and it managed to take off. So as when we see titles like that, along with Galgun and all that stuff coming to the Switch, it seems as though the Switch is starting to become a place for games that are, can be games that are, shall we say, risque or raunchy and all, which is certainly interesting to see compared to what Sony has been doing in terms of clamping down on certain games coming over to their system and all that stuff, which, from what I understand, the creator Senran Kagura was not happy with Sony's change in their policies and all that stuff, and supposedly left the company and so forth. Well, it appears as though Senran Kagura Peach Ball apparently is coming to the West after all, not to mention addressing some of the issues of it being censored or not. According to Nintendo Life, it has said that it says that pinball-themed Senran Kagura Peach Ball gets a Western release for this summer, according with Europe, Australia, North America, and Europe. It says Marvelous Europe and Xseed Games have confirmed that Senran Kagura Peach Ball will launch on Nintendo Switch in the West. The game is expected to be released this summer, according to what they're saying. They're also mentioning that the game will launch in Europe and North America, Australia this summer. It has been confirmed that North America will receive a limited edition physical release, which will be available from selected retailers. I've seen some of the pre-orders on both PlayAsia and Amazon.com for the game. On top of that, there's been some questions on whether or not the game would be censored or anything like that, but apparently, at least according to what Marvelous Games are saying, that is not the case. Again, they replied to a fan on Twitter regarding whether this game will be censored or not, and according to what they're saying, at least from the article, another article from Nintendo Life, they're saying that in a reply to a fan over on Twitter, publisher Marvelous says the Western release would be content complete as per original Japanese release. As previously noted, North America will receive the physical edition at selected retailers, and that's what they basically said when replying to basically a response regarding the Western release, though. Some of the people so far responded positive to it, saying, excellent, any news when Upper is out on the PS4? And one person writes, quote, Nintendo does what Sony doesn't. So, obviously, it is, like it or not, it is a title I probably will be taking a look at, mostly because, one, I do enjoy pinball. I do think it is a fun thing, and I definitely would be eyeing this one to be exact. And two, I really don't have a problem with titles that are risque or raunchy, nor do I think the title should be censored or not. I believe that if a developer wants to make a game, if this is the type of game they want to make, let them make it, though. And whether or not consumers agree with it or not, they'll make the call on that one. I do think, as much as I like Sony and like some of the games they put out, I do think this is a dumb policy for them, though. And it would be really interesting to see if the Senran Kagura series starts making their way more over towards the Nintendo Switch and leave Sony due to their policy that they put up there. So, you know, overall, nice that we have a release date for it. It seems that there will be limited editions or physical versions sold at selected retailers. Again, I saw PlayAsia and Amazon have it up, and it's nice to know that the game is not being censored. I really don't think the game should be censored at all, though. I mean, I just think that while that's up to the developers, though, I don't think the developers should be forced to completely censor a game and so forth. So if you're looking forward to Senran Kagura Peach Ball, well, there you go. We're getting a physical version, and the game will not be censored in the West, at least as far as what Marvelous is saying so far. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 7, and this one has to do with another risque or raunchy title that apparently supposedly has been confirmed to be coming to the West, and that is, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm just going to say it anyway, Panty Party. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part, let me get this up. Yeah, there we go. Part 7 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be talking about, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but what the hell, I'm just going to say it anyway, the announcement that we now know that of the game Panty Party that has now announced that it's coming to the West. Now, when this was announced, I think a couple months ago, I was like, it's a thing. I don't know why this title existed. It just did. And based on what they showed, the gameplay footage, you know, just really did not interest me as much as compared to the last game that I just talked about, Senran Kagura Panty. Now again, everyone has their own different preferences, tastes, and all that stuff, and whether you like it or not, that's going to be your decision. But if you're interested in picking up, yes, Panty Party, apparently we now know that it's coming to the West. According to Nintendo Life, been referencing them a lot, but anyway, links in the description. It reads, quote, "No, you're not misleading the above headline. A retail version of Panty Party is for the Nintendo Switch is indeed on its way to the West. The game publisher COSEN has announced the Switch eShop version will be made available in late April or early May for $14.99, and a physical release is also planned for outside of Japan. Panty Party is described as a fast-paced battle game where you float around as a panty on the street searching for fighting against enemy panties. It promised plenty of comedy, love, passion, and dance-inspiring soundtrack. As badass as it sounds, don't expect this game to be filled with adult imagery. As noticed on the official game page, all you get is funny and stupid panties. The Switch version of this title will also include the whole thing just sounds stupid. That will include multiplayer battles for up to four players now. I'll give the credit. I'll give the credit for the developers that are willing to not only make this game but to bring it over here into the West, though. As far as it releasing a physical version goes, they don't mention when the physical version is going to come out, but I would not be surprised if we see something such as this being released at selected retailers, like we're seeing with Senran Kagura Panty, where that one I've seen both on PlayAsia or Amazon.com. Or hell, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a exclusive just to PlayAsia. After all, Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball 3 was exclusive to PlayAsia. As for the game itself, honestly, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not saying I'm against the game or anything like it or anything like that. I'm sure there's an audience for that kind of title. It just doesn't really interest me. And it's one of those, like, I know some people may or may not agree with the statement, but it's one of those only in Japan type of a title. And the fact that it exists is just silly and all that stuff. So overall, if this was a title you're looking forward to the Nintendo Switch, you'll be happy to know it's coming in April and May. It's going to be $15 off of the Nintendo eShop, or you can wait until they announce when the physical version is happening, though. And I wouldn't be entirely surprised if the physical version is only available through selected retailers, or if we see something like, say, PlayAsia has this as an exclusive for them that they are selling as a physical retail. So, my take, I'm sure there's an audience for this game, aka Panty Party, but I'm obviously not that type of person. It just doesn't interest me, but I'm sure there are people out there that probably will enjoy the title then. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 8, and this one has to do with the announcement regarding Octopath Traveler, as it's no longer a Switch exclusive. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our, let's see if I can get this up. There we go, our 8th and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one has to do with regarding Octopath Traveler. Now, last year Square Enix released the Switch exclusive at the time, the Octopath Traveler, a game that they showed off during Nintendo's Nintendo Switch presentation back in January of 2017. And it was an interesting game that came out that was kind of a mixture of both old and new. It had a 2D style that looked back to the days of, the 16-bit and the 8-bit era, but with some modern looks to it, though, especially with some of the combat. The game was supposedly developed, I believe it was developed by the same folks who worked on Bravely Default and Bravely Second. Would love to see if those games get ported over to the Switch, not to mention if the rumors about a third Bravely Default are true. And it was surprisingly a very fun game. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I made it my #1 Nintendo Switch game of 2018. And at the time, it was unclear whether or not the game was, what kind of exclusivity was it? Was it a timed exclusive where it could have gone to other systems after the time exclusivity was up? Or was it a kind of exclusivity as of in the way of what Bayonetta 2 was, where Nintendo said that they would fully fund the game in exchange for making it just exclusive to just their system and just their system only? Well, we now know this week what it was, and it certainly was a time exclusive, and it looks like if you're a PC gamer or a PC owner, then this game's going to be coming straight to come straight towards Steam as well, if that's the kind of thing you use to play your PC games. From an article from Destructoid, it reads that first came the rating, then the reveal, or something like that. These things aren't set in stone. Octopath Traveler popped up on Korea's rating board in a listing that suggests PC port of the Nintendo Switch JRPG was likely imminent. Now, right on cue, Square Enix had offered up a January 7 release date. The announcement article vanished after publications, but not before the internet caught on. Though, as always, even if you delete something from the internet, it's pretty much there forever. Someone's going to find out and all that stuff. Square Enix posts noted that Octopath Traveler will launch on Steam and Square Enix Store, the first time non-Nintendo owners can experience the game. The rest of the article sums up bullet points, the HD 2D aesthetic, the 8-hero story, and the guard breaking. If you haven't followed along because you don't own a Nintendo Switch, but you're open to an idea of a more modern look take on the retro RPG, you could get speed. They point out the review about their game though. So it's uncertain if this post was premature or if there's something bigger going on, but it's clear that Octopath Traveler is PC bound. While the game structured itself well to the Switch, I could see this tearing up the Steam charts all the same and all that stuff. So my response to this appearing on, now it looks like it's going to appear on PC, is, well, kind of mixed in some degree though. While it is a little bit unfortunate that it's no longer a Switch exclusive, I'm not really losing any sleep on it though. I mean, I don't have a problem with this being a time exclusive, though. If they want to bring it to the PC, that's great. I mean, hopefully this sits well with PC audiences as well. Hopefully it does well on the Steam charts, and hopefully PC gamers like it or not. Although I've heard stories about how the PC, the Steam, there's also a lot of shuffleware crap on that, and that this game could get lost on the Steam chart. I mean, it lost in Steam though. I mean, it could happen, but I don't own a PC, I don't game on PC, so I really don't know if that will or not. But it is nice to see that other gamers will experience what many Switch owners enjoyed with this game, with Octopath Traveler. Hopefully this will sit, hopefully PC gamers will like it as well. We'll see if it lights up the Steam charts or not, but as for me, as for whether or not I should pick up the PC version or not, you know what? I'm happy with my version on the Nintendo Switch. I'll probably stick with that version though, but if you're a PC gamer and was looking forward to this game, well, it looks like we'll be coming to the Switch. Coming to PC, very soon, if the June 6th release date is true. So overall, a little disappointed it's not a Switch exclusive anymore, but not losing sleep over it, and we'll see if PC gamers enjoy this game as much as Switch gamers did. Okay, this concludes this My Two Cent video for this week, and again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the whole situation with Borderlands 3 and the whole Epic Store controversy? Do you think some people are taking it way too seriously? Do you think it's being blown way out of proportion? Or do you think people, particularly those who like the game on PC, have a right to be angry about Borderlands 3 being an Epic Store exclusive or time exclusive? And do you think some people went way out of line with the review bombing? What are your thoughts about the Wolfenstein Youngblood, the $60 box being not having a physical copy, but instead of a code? Do you think this is ridiculous? Do you think Bethesda is being cheap or anything like that? Does this bother you at all? Does this not bother you at all? Does this make you want to cancel your pre-order for the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood, or are you still going ahead to pre-order the game? What are your thoughts about the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 11 and the fact that you might need, it looks like you're going to need a 15 gigabyte download to download the rest of the game? Do you think this is a big deal? Do you think this raises some concerns about the Switch going forward? Do you think this may have to do with the price for the cartridges and so forth? Does this bother you in any way? Does this not bother you in any way? What are your thoughts about God Eater 3 coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you happy that they announced this game coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you looking forward to trying it out? Do you think this could open the door for other Bandai Namco games to be coming to the Switch? Maybe if the rumors of Code Vein turn out to be true after all? What are your thoughts about Vamp and Call of Cthulhu? Again, I apologize for not saying this name, coming to Nintendo Switch. If I'm not saying it incorrectly. Coming to the Nintendo Switch. Are you happy that these games are coming to the Nintendo Switch? Were you a fan of when it was available on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think Switch owners will like it? Do you think Switch owners will hate it? What are your thoughts about Senran Kagura Peach Ball and the fact that we're getting a Western release and a physical copy at limited retailers? Do you think this is? Are you glad that they made this announcement? Are you looking forward to this game? And in regards to Marvel's response to the game won't be censored, are you pleased with this announcement? Did you really care if the game was censored or not? What are your thoughts about, and yes, I'm saying it again, Panty Party coming to the West, though? Is this a title you're looking forward to getting? Was this a title you thought weren't looking forward to getting? Do you really care if it was coming over here to the West, or did you not really care at all? And last but not least, what are your thoughts about Octopath Traveler no longer a Switch exclusive, and it's now looks like it's going to be PC bound? Are you disappointed that it's no longer a Switch exclusive, or are you not disappointed at all? Do you think PC gamers will enjoy Octopath Traveler, or do you think that most will pass on this title though? Are you losing sleep over this, or are you not really losing sleep over this at all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description. Also, if you do subscribe to my YouTube video, I do hope you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye!